Good afternoon and welcome everyone to today's special licensing committee meeting. I am Councillor Rick Jones, the chairman of the committee. I am supported by Councillor Phil Barnett, the vice chairman, and the other members of the committee in attendance are Councillor Adrian Abbs, Councillor David Marsh, Councillor Graham Bridgman, Councillor Tony Linden, and remotely Councillor Graham Pask. Julia O'Brien, Moira Fraser and Flo Churchill are the officers who will be advising the meeting. Christina Assa is the clerk to the committee and Stephen Chard is the Zoom host. Before we start the meeting, I would like to explain for the benefit of members of the public who may be watching that today's meeting is being held over both Zoom and with councillors present and COVID compliant in the council chamber. The current COVID safe capacity of the council chamber means that not all attendees are able to attend in person. For this meeting, some committee members and some officers are attending in person, with others joining remotely only via Zoom. Those people in the chamber are sitting socially distanced and are thus permitted to remove their face masks while seated. The meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, so members of the public are able to follow proceedings. Do members have any questions about the way in which this meeting will be conducted before we proceed? No? This meeting has been called specifically to review the outcome of discussions and consultations with the professional taxi trade and to decide on statutory consultation and the process to implement change of Hackney carriage tariffs if change is considered by the committee to be appropriate. That will be item 3 on our agenda. We'll get to that in a second. Firstly, can I ask if there have been any apologies for the meeting?
Yes, there are. Councillor Billy Drummond, Councillor Claire Rolls, and Martha Vickers, and Peter Argyle.
Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest for this agenda item? Okay. So let's get right to the main item on the agenda. Members, we're asked to review the Hackney carriage fare scale in the light of recent history, being that fares have not changed since 2013. The recent impact of the pandemic on the trade, and also in the light of the very recent non-statutory consultation with the trade, following several years of quite complex discussions. Specifically, we're requested to look at recommendations 2.1 to 2.7 at the beginning of your report, and considering the background information and the results of the survey conducted with the local trade. Assuming you're familiar with the subject, as we've been discussing it for some time now, can I first take recommendation 2.1 as the easy one, where we're simply asked to note the existing tariffs which are in the report. Has everyone seen those?
Yeah, there's a
sorry to interrupt, Councillor Abbs. Is your microphone?
In which case, can you shout a bit?
Sorry about that, Chair. Yeah, and just for completeness, I did note on page 6 that it refers to a website on which it doesn't give it our ranking, but it leaves it blank. But then it refers to a website where this information came from. And if you go to that site at the moment, West Berkshire is down as 48 with a number of 6.8, and that doesn't match up with what's in the report. So.
Thank you.
I don't think it's particularly material, but
if we turn to, sorry.
Chairman, just to say, to answer Councillor Abbs, that would be if we went with a 5% increase, that's where the council would end up.
Could I ask both members and officers to, if we are speaking, to use your Zoom hand, because that's what I'm trying to monitor at the moment. In which case, Councillor Richmond.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to answer that point, I looked at that when the report first came out, went on the website and thought, where on earth have they got that number from? Because it's wrong. Our rate currently for that distance is £6.65p, which is, and the report's been amended to take and that's the reason there's now no longer a number against it. So I don't know where that website was getting the number from, but it was wrong.
Thank you for that clarification. It was simply that was the number and it was linked to it. So,
okay, thank you for clarifying that. If we turn to recommendation 2.2, this is really the meat of the report. Can I ask members for their comments in relation to the results and the points that are made by the trade and the proposal to change tariffs? The recommendations are set out in sections 4.9 to 4.12. Any members have any comments or questions? Councillor Bridgman.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, you'll know that I've been somewhat involved in these calculations. And if you recall, where we were coming from originally was that there was no logical sense to the table we had because there was no proper relationship between tariffs 1, 2 and 3. There was also a suggestion at an earlier meeting from members of the trade that perhaps we didn't need tariff 3. What hadn't come across from the trade representatives, and there was a subsequent small meeting with representative of the Hackney carriage trade, was this issue which is raised in the report of the meters really requiring a round number, round 10p, round 20p, because as it was put to us that what taxi drivers don't want to be doing is carrying around loads of shrapnel and having to take pennies and tuppences off their customers and make change in pennies and tuppences. And that really led to the numbers that are in the report. The way in which the structure of the 5% proposal, which is set out in the report, and I take you to the paragraph if I could.
22, I think.
Yeah, is that results in round numbers for distance, for the trigger distances within the mile. So basically, it's a rate which is based on 1/12 of a mile with a particular flag distance, and I think 61-second distance is the time, but everything works out to a nice round 0 at the end of the distance, which makes the taxi driver ability to make change and so on and so forth that much easier. Now, we took on board all of that, and that was actually the first time in this entire conversation, and you'll know that the conversation has been going on for quite a while, that had been explained to us, and that logic and the reason why we were arriving at what looks like a bit of a strange distance, all of that relates back into the fact that you end up with a rate which is roughly 5% increase, but has zeros at the end. And I thought that all made logical sense. You'll see that in the responses to the initial consultation, there were a range of views between some people not wanting any, thinking that in order to attract those customers into cabs, they didn't want any increase because any increase would put the trade off. And those who said, well, we haven't had an increase for a large number of years, we need a 10% increase. In my personal view, the 5% proposal is the proper compromise to reach between those two ends of the scale of opinion, if I can put it like that. And I think what we should be doing is going out to consultation, the formal consultation that is explained in the report on that average 5% increase with those rates that are in the report. So, Chairman, if you get to that point, I'm very happy to propose that to the meeting, but I'm interested in what others might have to say.
Any other members want to comment? Councillor Abs.
Chairman, Councillor Pask has his hand up before me,
sorry.
actually.
Yes.
Oh,
Councillor Pask.
thank you very much indeed. I'm broadly at the moment, but I'm happy to, obviously, to listen to other views as well. But Councillor Bridgman's summary was broadly in line with what I was thinking. Am I not correct in saying if an operator doesn't wish to charge the additional money, then it isn't obligatory. It can. They needn't put the fares up. I believe that to be the case. Someone please confirm.
That's true.
Right.
Moira, can we just confirm that, please?
Chairman, just to say that the fare would be the maximum
Yes.
that the operator could charge, and they wouldn't be obligated to charge that fee.
Thank you.
Chairman, that was my understanding. I'm grateful for it to be confirmed. And I, at the moment at least, am leaning towards being supportive of what Councillor Bridgman just said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pask. Councillor Abs.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you to Councillor Pask. I now have nothing to say, because that's pretty much exactly what I was going to say. So, thank you.
Councillor Barnett.
Well, likewise, Chairman, I was going to make a couple of observations, and Councillor Pask has made that as well. So I'm very much in favour of what Councillor Bridgman's already said. So I'm going to ask you, Chairman, whether Councillor Bridgman is prepared to actually put that as a proposal, because I think I'm more than happy seconding it.
Before we do that, could I just ask our officer, Maura Fraser, is there anything else that we ought to be considering, Maura, before we take any decisions and take any votes?
Chairman, the other, if members are minded to go with an increase, is just to confirm around the timescales for the consultation. The proposal on the report is that we extend, we're obligated to go for 14 days, but officers are proposing that we extend that time and go from the 16th of September. And the reason we've chosen the 16th of September is just to give us time to get the advert into the newspaper, because that would be the start date of the consultation, and then run that through to the 14th of October.
Okay, so that's your recommendation 2.6, yes?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Councillor Abs.
Thank you, Chairman. I was going to say the way that we are going to do this consultation is it predetermined? Are we doing any extra efforts to make sure we get the maximum response? Obviously, we're going to be advertising, but are we following through with the same people who have previously responded? I just want to make sure we've got as much feedback as we possibly can get to close this one off once and for all.
I presume that we'll be doing that exactly so, but I'll
yes,
check with Maura.
as we say, one doesn't like to assume.
No.
So, Chairman, at the last meeting, members asked that we are required to put the statutory notice into one of our local newspapers. And members asked at the last meeting that we do the Newbury Weekly News as well as the Reading Chronicle. So we'd be proposing to do that. We will also put the consultation up onto the website. And in addition, we would also make sure that we wrote to, if members are minded to agree, that to all the members of the trade, so that they would have an opportunity to comment again. But we'd hope to solicit some comments from members of the public and perhaps people who use the fares to get their viewpoint as well, not just that the view of the operators.
I'm pleased that we're planning to write to members of the trade, because at least that notifies them that there is a consultation to respond to. Does that satisfy? In that case, I'd like to turn back to Councillor Bridgman. We have some other, a set of subsequent recommendations to go through, as Maura has pointed out. But if we're talking about recommendation 2.2, we've considered the outcome of the recent consultation. We are now, I think, going to vote on the scheme that's set out on page 22, which appears to be the most acceptable to us and to the trade, before moving on to the other recommendations. So, Councillor Bridgman.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to propose, I'll deal with the numbers first and then come back to the precise proposal for officers. So the numbers I'm referring to are, as you say, listed on page 22 of the pack under meeting with taximeter representative. And we have their proposals for tariffs 1, 2 and 3, £3 initial, £4.50 initial, £6 initial. You can see the relationship there. And 146.7 yards, 20p, 30p, 40p, and the initial 69.1 and 352 yards for flag. So, Chairman, those are the numbers I'm about to refer to. If I now, the proposal is that we agree that those are the appropriate fares that should be taken, that a copy of the notice should be placed in the Newbury Weekly News. I'm looking at 2.4 of the pack. That we note that a copy should be emailed to the trade. And indeed, I would go along with, we should email this wide, and indeed, I would look to our media officers to make sure that this is actually communicated as I think as a release on behalf of the committee, so that it reaches the widest possible. Indeed, the public should know what we're up to. That we agree the timescale that's proposed at 2.6, that there should be a consultation period from the 16th of September to the 14th of October, and that if there are any objections that are received but aren't withdrawn, we should come back on the 8th of November to make a recommendation to Council, to the Executive for the 16th of November. So that is my en bloc recommendation, but I look to Councillor Abbs.
Yeah. Yeah, Chair, just 18th of November is what's down at 2.7.
Do apologise, the 18th of November. Thank you, Councillor Abbs. So that's my proposal, Chairman. I see if it finds a seconder.
Does that find a seconder? Yes. Councillor Barnett.
Sorry, yeah, seconded by myself, Chair.
Before we take a vote, Councillor Linden, you have your hand up. Is that relevant to this vote?
Yes, Chairman. I think we referred prior to the recommendation that would also notify the Reading Chronicle. And the other thing is, I put in my diary the 8th of November rather than the 18th of November for the subsequent meeting.
Let's come back to the detail.
Well, Chairman, I think those are easily answered. Firstly, the Reading Chronicle is referred to in 2.4. And secondly, the 8th of November is the licensing committee. The 18th of November is the executive meeting. So they're two separate meetings.
Okay, thank you. That serves.
In which case, members, can I, by a show of hands, physical hands this time?
Should we just see what Councillor Pask would do?
I think he's already indicated what he would do.
I have already indicated, and if I were there, which I apologise for not being, I would be voting in favour.
Right, so we've had a proposal and a seconder. All those in favour? That's unanimous. So I declare that.
Sorry, if we could just clarify that that's what you're doing is making a recommendation to the Head of Public Protection, because according to the Constitution, they're the ones who are going to have to make this decision. So it'll be signed off as a delegated officer's decision on Wednesday.
Sorry, happy to make that amendment, Chair.
Change the proposal, Maura.
Chairman, if we just state to recommend to the Head of Public Protection that, and then the same recommendations that Councillor Bridgman has already listed.
Chairman, I'm very happy to make that amendment to my proposal if it finds favour with the seconder.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Barnett?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that, Maura. That's noted and understood. So that covers all the recommendations in that one comprehensive proposal, which we have now passed. Is there any other business that we need to conduct at this meeting? I don't see any interventions. So in that case, I declare this meeting closed. Thank you for your attendance and swift decision making.